URLs are obviously very important when discussing routing. The location service in Angular manages the URLs for your application, and you can use the location provider to configure how those URLs will be presented and managed. You can configure your application to operate in one of two different modes. The default mode is known as Hashbang mode. It's easy to spot an Angular app running in Hashbang mode because there will be a hash sign in the URL, usually right after the domain name. The bang in Hashbang refers to an exclamation mark that you may sometimes see next to the hash sign. That doesn't appear by default, but there is a configuration option that lets you add it or some other character to the hash symbol. Whatever character combination you use, it basically serves as a marker for Angular to know what part of the URL it's responsible for. Everything to the right of the hash symbol is client-side routing information, and Angular will handle it. The alternative to Hashbang mode is HTML5 mode. There are a few differences between the two modes, but the most obvious is that the hash sign no longer appears in the URL. As you can see in this example, everything else about the URL remains the same. The only difference is the absence of the hash sign. When Angular is configured to run in HTML5 mode, it attempts to use the browser's HTML5 history API. That API, combined with a few other changes you'll have to make in your application and on your web server, allow Angular to manage and present URLs without the hash sign. There are some differences in the setup and configuration of your app depending on which mode you want to use, so it's important to know what that involves so you can decide which one is right for your app. As I've already mentioned, Hashbang mode is the default mode. There is no special configuration required to run in this mode. Running in HTML5 mode is done using the location provider. We'll see in a demo in just a minute how to do that. It's pretty straightforward and just requires a few lines of code. In Hashbang mode, all URLs will contain the hash sign. In HTML5 mode, there will not be a hash sign unless your user is running an older browser that does not support the HTML5 history API. In that case, Angular will fall back to Hashbang mode for that browser, and the hash sign will appear in the URLs. Links are not rewritten in Hashbang mode. They will be used exactly as they are created. This hardly sounds like something worth mentioning since it's probably the behavior you would reasonably expect. It's really only notable because running your app in HTML5 mode will potentially rewrite some links. Angular will rewrite links to remove the hash sign if it's present. It will also rewrite a link to include a hash sign if the user is using an older browser and Angular needs to fall back to Hashbang mode. Lastly, there is no server-side configuration required for Hashbang mode. However, if you want to run in HTML5 mode, you must configure your server to rewrite links to the entry point for your Angular app. That will make sure your Angular application gets loaded by the browser, and then Angular will take over the client-side routing from that point. I won't be covering server-side configuration in this course since that will be very different for every type of web server. I will show you how to configure your client application for HTML5 mode though. Let's go do that in a demo now.